This is how I nearly died in a deadly gas leak in Turkey. It was back in 2023 and I was on a trip to Istanbul and I was staying in an apartment which was an Airbnb at the very top floor. Now this wasn't some kind of fancy penthouse, this was just the top apartment and it had quite a nice roof view with a balcony and you could kind of see quite a lot of the city. Everything was within the same space. They had the big bed, you had the gas stove cooker. Now the first red flag about this for me was the fact that the cooker kind of smelled a little bit, so I actually called the apartment people to ask if there had actually been some kind of gas leaking out of the cooker. After they came and brought the guy over for an inspection, it turned out that the cooker was either electronic or it just wasn't switched on at the time after I'd used it, so they just deemed it wasn't a risk, so we just turned it off. And from there on out, I just spent the rest of the day, right? I went out in the neighborhood in Turkey. It might have been Beşiktaş, I think that's how you say it, and I've been there quite a few times. Now Turkey's quite busy, and Turkey is not really typically a dangerous place usually, but there was a lot of tension around this particular trip. So this was at the start of 2023, and if you don't know, there was basically an earthquake during this time, so this wasn't really the best time or best trip in Turkey. And also 2 weeks prior there was actually an attack, basically a bomb that set off in Istanbul in Taksim Square, I believe. When you go down the main shopping street, that's where it set off. And on my other trips, that's where I actively frequented, and I would go down and shop on those streets and walk. So the fact that I wasn't in that wrong place at the wrong time was actually really lucky, especially since it was really close to planning this trip. So anyway, I was staying in this apartment and the gas stove had been checked and everything seemed alright. At the end of the day, I came back and I went to sleep. I wasn't actually sleeping in the bed. I think there was a problem with the bed, or maybe I was just being like a little bit weird. So what I did is I put two chairs next to each other to make a makeshift bed. Now obviously, as you'd imagine, when I'm sleeping on this really uncomfortable wooden chair, it took a long time for me to get to sleep, but eventually I did actually doze off, right? And I just remember waking up and smelling the most putrid smell that I've ever smelled. And as I got up, bear in mind I was half asleep at this point after sleeping on this really uncomfortable chair, and I kind of looked around the room, scanned around the room, and everything felt kind of hazy. I couldn't really make out the objects in the room, and I was thinking, okay, something's definitely wrong here. It's not like it was filled with smoke like a fire, it was kind of like a mist. Now this is just an apartment block, I don't really have a contact apart from the woman who was obviously operating the place, and she wasn't replying, and she lived somewhere else. She was probably asleep at this point. I looked outside of the door through the keyhole. You have like a small keyhole where you can just see into the corridor. I could see like a flickering thing which was orange, and I thought this was a flame, right? So I'm kind of in shock right now. I'm thinking, okay, it's misty, I can't see anything, there's this kind of flickering orange color. Is there a fire in the building? And I kind of went into full panic mode, and what I thought is, it probably isn't smart to open the door, because if it's already misty in here, I was thinking this mist was some kind of smoke that filled the building from a fire. So I thought, if I open the door now, it might all come in or a fire might spread. So I stayed inside the door at first, and I thought, stay close to the ground, let's think about what our next move is, and let's open the door which goes onto the balcony. Now I was thinking about something crazy here. I was thinking, okay, if this building's burning, I'm literally gonna jump from roof to roof like a parkour movie, like an action movie. It seems like it would be doable because in Istanbul, especially where I was, the buildings are so close together. Problem was, it was really raining badly on this day, so there was super bad downfall. Every surface was wet, so even if I jumped from somewhere, I would probably slip and probably hit my head and die anyway, right? I was also on the top floor. If there was a problem in the corridor, how on earth can I actually get out and go in the elevator? And then again, if there was a fire, is the elevator even safe or accessible to enter and leave? Now eventually, after all this crazy ideation and thinking about what my next strategy would be, I opened the door because I just wanted to see what it was like in the corridor. I still couldn't really tell what that was, but it smelled in the corridor quite badly as well on the top floor. So I was thinking, okay, this is weird, but I just slowly went down the stairs, which was probably a bad idea in hindsight. Bear in mind, we're about 5 or 6 flights of stairs up in this apartment block, so I'm on the top, so I'm in the worst place to escape a fire, right? So I go down onto the 5th floor and I can still smell it. It's quite pungent, nearly as much as the top floor. And then the floor below, still pretty bad too, and then the floors below that didn't really smell as bad. So whatever this is in one of these top floors. So then I just went to the bottom of the building. I managed to make my way right back down to the ground floor, and from here I was kind of wandering back and forth, going in circles, thinking, what on earth is happening? The whole building's quiet, no one's realized what's going on. This apartment block is supposed to be full of people who are most likely asleep right now, and nobody's woke up to this smell. Is there no risk here? Am I just being paranoid? What's going on? Nobody had woke up. I was the only one looking like an idiot on the bottom floor, obviously trying to call my parents at home, going on FaceTime. As I actually actually went to the door downstairs, I could still see there was people outside. In Turkey, people are at all times of the night. I don't know why. There's people wandering at night time. There's people in the streets really early. So there's always a little bit of activity, right? So I was wondering, why are people talking outside? Why is no one woke up? This must just be a me problem, right? So let's just wait. Since it's 5 a.m, people are going to start getting active and wake up in the next 1 to 2 hours. So let's just stay up another hour or two. This guy comes down the lift, and this is a guy that was nice to me earlier when I'd actually first gone in the apartment building after checking in. He came down, he was in a real big panic and a shocked look on his face, and he said absolutely nothing to me. He just basically blanked me and ignored me, and he goes outside, and then he just goes back up in the elevator. So I was kind of confused, and I was thinking, okay, something is going on that's weird here. And then an ambulance pulls up outside of the apartment block building. 2 guys get out, and they just walk straight past me, and they go up the elevator. They're up there for like 5 or 10 minutes, and I'm just thinking, what on earth is going on? They came down in the elevator. That guy, again, who saw me, he came down with the 2 ambulance guys and his wife, and I remember talking to the ambulance people and trying to use my Google Translate app, just asking them, what on earth is going on? Is there a fire? Is the building burned? And what turned out is from 11 p.m. at night to the current time now, around 5 to 6 a.m, these people had fallen to sleep. They left their oven gas on and they not turned it off, and gas had basically filled the whole building for about 6 to 7 hours. So if literally anyone had lit a match, the whole building would have set on fire and possibly exploded, and I probably would be dead right now. It just goes to show, just one person doing something careless could literally seal the deal on your fate. I switched from Airbnbs after that time, and I only stayed in buildings that had smoke alarms, because there was no smoke alarm that set off when that happened, because there was none in the building. After that, I managed to luckily get a refund from that building. I booked the next hotel, the closest one. It was super expensive. The closest hotel to that was the Hotel Sheraton, Istanbul. Obviously, if you know, that's quite an expensive chain. I had to spend a lot on that to stay in for 1 or 2 nights, and from there on I thought, okay, I've got 9 lives now. All these things to keep happening, I'm losing a life every time. We're getting close to 0 lives, right? Like a video game. It's like Super Mario when you run into a Goomba or something, you lose a heart. I moved to that hotel. Super amazing hotel, great staff, really nice. They even had a metal detector on their door, so you obviously can't feel any safer. From there on out, I lived quite luxuriously for 2 nights. And I think a few days after that, I left that Sheraton. I stayed somewhere else, like a cheaper hotel somewhere else on the other side of Istanbul. And then there was an earthquake in Turkey, and I felt the aftershocks. And when that happened, I was so paranoid as well. The wind was blowing so strong that night. All of the signs, like they have those flappy signs on chains, and they were flapping up and down like that. The lids of the bins in the streets were flying up and down, making super amounts of noise. And after that, I got so scarred for my life on that trip. And I remember not actually traveling, I think, for a good maybe 6 months plus after that. But I just wanted to kind of upload this kind of throwback story video because there is some lessons to learn here. Don't trust everyone. People can also make silly mistakes like that and forget things, and it could literally just kill you. They're the takeaways from this story. It's a little bit different. It's not a business video or an e-commerce video as usual, but I did want to make this video because I had it on my idea list for about a year, but I hadn't got around to making it, and it's just an absolutely crazy thing to tell. Now, let me know what you think about it in the comment section down below, if anything similar happened to you, or if maybe if you were in Turkey when some of those events happened, because that also would have been hilarious. But yeah, apart from that, Istanbul's a great place. Make sure to like the video and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.